Hey folks, Solly here, and in this Mythic Plus walkthrough video we are going to be looking at Tazavesh Streets of Wonder 11, which I did with predominantly a pug group. And again, this video is going to showcase a straightforward route which you can use in your weekly keys, either with pugs or without. There are some moments which you'll be able to flex to separate. We did have quite a bit of time left at the end of this key, so if you wanted to break some pulls down, you're more than able to do so. But hopefully this should just give you an idea of what you should be pulling and some key abilities to watch out for. So getting into it then, the first pull obviously is the one at the bottom of the stairs as you come in, and the main thing that you need to focus on here is getting your threat as quickly as possible. So Zomaz here is immune to CC, and he does Radiant Pulse as well, which is where defensives and healing comes in. You can see that AoE damage goes out there, and this does hit quite hard to tanks as well, so just be mindful of that. Proxy Strike can hurt, especially the higher up in keys you go. You've also got a number of security adds there, and you just need to be mindful of the hard light baton buff that they have. You can purge that off, or you can use defensives, and just make sure that you dodge the circles that they leave on the ground. So the next pull is a big one. You're going to pull the 2 on the left, the patrol, and the 3 around the corner, and then you bring them back to this corner here to LOS and to bring them all together. Now, some key abilities here that will happen, additional to what I've already covered so far, is this beam splicer here, which a random player will be targeted, an orb will spawn, and then very quickly after, the beam will come from the orb and will start to rotate, and depending on the level that you are at on the key, it will kill you, and you will see a couple of deaths in this starting area that people take because they hit the beam. So just bear that in mind. The Overseers as well, again, immune to CC, just like that first one. And these are the ones that do that beam splicer ability. Once you've got this pack down then, what you will need to do is pull the mini boss and the pack just to the left of it. So you can see here, I'm going in, I'm picking up the mini boss, and then I'm picking up the officer, specialist, and security, and trying to group them up as possible, trying to make sure that they maintain threat. Now, I lost 2 people there, mainly because they weren't aware of what I was doing, and that is the problem with not sharing routes and such. So the ping system is amazing. Utilize it. You can quickly mark which ones you're going to be attacking next if you are doing a pull like this where you're pulling in separate packs that you need to be aware of. Again, the mini boss immune to CC. This empowered glyph of restraint needs kicking. You want to make sure that that kick does not go off, and you want to avoid these rift blast lines that are going on. The officers was casting the hard light barrier. Again, you want to get rid of that as well, or you can purge it if it does go off. Main thing to remember here though is you do not want to be stood anywhere near here where the mini boss was when the mini boss dies, because when the boss spawns you can body pull it, and what you want to be doing first is moving around the corner and picking up the next 4 adds, which are just here. So you can see I'm making my way around, I'm dodging the beams, and I'm making my way around to them so that just as this dies I can then roll across and tag the the security and the specialist, and then the 2 overseers at the end of the room. Dodge the beams. We do die, and we do lose the healer to a beam here, and such. Make sure any important kicks are taken care of, and start to make your way back to the boss. The boss itself then, I'm sure you know how this boss works. It's been done a fair few times now. It's got a few key abilities that you want to be aware of. So first of all, you will have giant swirlies that will appear all throughout the fight. You just need to make sure that you are not standing in them. So move the boss away, and just think about where you are positioning the boss's tank so that everybody, mainly your melees, can always have 100% uptime on the boss. It will then also do a frontal, which you saw a second ago. It will turn and it will aim the frontal in a random direction. It is a bit more difficult to see. So it's this one here, Charge Smash. So it is a bit more difficult to see than the other frontals and swirlies and such that they've been putting into the game. So just keep an eye out for that. Make sure everybody's getting out of it. When the boss reaches 100 energy then, it will then cast Interrogation. One player is marked and they need to move away as far from the boss as possible, and they will get rooted and stunned in place. Now everybody needs to get there and nuke that down to get the player out and to stop the boss from doing his fixate, where he will walk towards the interrogated person, spinning his blades, and that will one-shot anybody if they are hit by the blades as the boss is moving forward. So make sure you're always away from it. You can utilize abilities like Bubble, for instance, to negate the interrogation, and you can also do things like get players to shadow meld at the right time. It then turns to the next person, so you could shadow meld it again, and you can just delay this cast going off as long as possible. But if everyone's focusing it and it's far enough away from the boss, you shouldn't have a problem. The last ability to be aware of then is it will also target somebody and he steals their weapon off them and throws it on the floor. That person then needs to go and find their weapon and pick it up. And sometimes that can be a little tricky to see if it is in one of these swirlies or underneath the boss. So just be mindful of that. But as tank, you never have that happen to you. So after this boss then, you make your way outside and you're going to take the left-hand path. So you jump over this wall, you come across the bridge, and you pick up Tracker Zokors, or however you pronounce his name. Again, immune to CC, and he will drag players within the circle that goes around him. So ideally you want to make sure that you are staying close to him. He will also drop the Beam Splicer, and he will do an ability called Lockdown where he targets the tank. If you want, you can use a defensive here if you feel like you need to. And that can then be dispelled, or you can use an ability like Tiger's Lust, for instance, to remove it. So you can see it comes out here. I am rooted in place, and I can have that dispelled. I then move and I chain pull into these two hounds. Now, you don't need to necessarily do this. You can do Zokors on its own and then move into this, but I waited until the Beam Splicer and Lockdown went off and it was low because I felt like the group could take it. The healer actually died to the frontal from the hound. So these hounds will do a frontal, sidestep it, and they will do a cast which needs kicking as well. And these two also need to die roughly at the same time. If they don't die within a few seconds of each other, they will respawn. So make sure you are cleaving them down equally. The next pull then is this dire horn, this enraged dire horn, and the frenzied night claws at the bottom of the stairs. So there's the dinosaur at the top, and then there's the 4 night claws. Now you can either do the 2 hounds at the top and the dire horn, or do the dire horn with the night claws. There can be quite a bit of damage coming out on this, so help your healer out, use your defensives, use your mitigation well, and smooth out as much damage as possible. And essentially, again, you want to just get these down as quickly as possible and start to kite them towards the next boss room, which is the menagerie. Now, here, what you can also do is you can get a player, usually the healer, when you are in a good position, you are stable, the healer can run into the boss room and start the RP to save you some time. Because what I'm doing here is I'm pulling these just around this corner. I'm waiting till they get suitably low enough until I'm feeling comfortable, because this is a pug, and I tag one of these peacekeepers to pull them both in. And what we're going to do here is essentially run into the hallway. The healer comes back from starting the RP. I line of sight as best as possible. They can be difficult because of this ability here, Phalanx Field, which needs stunning to interrupt, and they can stutter step essentially. But ideally, you just want to like kill these whilst you're on the way to the boss. Now, if you're in a good group here, you can absolutely pull these onto this boss. In a pug, I typically don't like to, mainly because of the stun that is required on these peacekeepers. So we finish these off and then go into the boss, either as the last one is about to die, or they're both dead. The boss itself then. There are 3 bosses in total, and they will activate in a given time. So it's not necessarily a health percentage, it's just how long it takes for you to kill these bosses. So the first one here then will put this large AoE circle on the ground, which you need to move away from. This is probably the easiest one of the 3, and you just tank it where you stand. You do not use Lust on this boss. He will then spawn smaller circles. You look where the safe space is, and then, so you can see here, when the circles come out, you can see there are gaps in the floor, which is where it is safe to stand, and then shortly after, another load of blue circles will appear. So you go and stand in the one that was clear, and then as soon as the first lot disappear, you go and stand in the safe space. Now the second boss has now activated, and this is where you want to use Lust if you have it. So we've got it just, in fact the healer just randomly decided to use it, I believe. He's either going to use it in just a second or he used it on pull. I can't remember which one it was. Second boss, yeah, so he used it in the right time. The second boss then activates and you drag him to this corner. And the main reason why is for this ability here, Venting Protocol, which spawns a load of blue orbs that float around the room. Now, one person will be marked with a debuff, which I have here. So you can see this black swirling mist that goes around me. That person needs to collect as many orbs throughout the fight as possible. One, you get a damage increase, and two, it prevents people taking damage if they accidentally hit any of these orbs throughout the fight, which is quite hard to do when you are chained, for instance. So you can see that is an ability. That is why I tank him here, because it makes the orbs a lot easier to manage because they just bounce around this corner. The next ability to bear in mind is the one he's casting any second now. It's called Flagellation Protocol, and this is essentially the tank buster. It is a multiple hit ability combo, and you need to make sure that you are mitigating that well enough. So for me, it was a case of Purifying Brew at the right time, having Celestial Infusion up, and all of that good stuff as well. There is also a purge that you can utilise on this boss as well, on the second one. So if you have a purge in your group winner, you can get rid of that. The third boss will then activate. So you want to get rid of that boss as soon as possible, which is why Lust is best used on the second one. The third boss will then jump down, and you will want to take this into the middle of the room. And the first ability to talk about is Whirling Annihilation, which does a pull-in on everybody, and the suck gets stronger. If you go in, you will die, most likely. Tanks, you might be able to survive it. DPS healers, you will get one shot. The second ability then to talk about is this one here that is going off anytime now. So after Whirling Annihilation, Chains of Damnation comes out. It targets an individual and it will lock them in place. Again, this can be negated by various abilities and such. I believe Tiger's Lust for Monk works, for instance. If not, they can be damaged and got out of the route. You can see that I've now got the debuff again, and I'm running around trying to collect as many of the orbs as possible because Whirling Annihilation is going on anyway, so I can't be in melee. And that is essentially the fight. You just need to make sure you're getting as much damage as possible in so that you don't have more than one boss up at a time as best as possible. You're most likely going to have two. You definitely do not want three. Once this boss is down then, so this is where the first mistake happens. Now, you come out and you take a little bit of a right, and behind where you pulled the two Peacekeepers at the start, you can skip if done correctly. Now, I don't know if it's me getting this wrong or if it was this person here. I think it was him on his mount. He just sidestepped a little bit too much to the left. This pack was pulled. Now, I would not want to pull this pack normally. I'd want to just skip straight past it. If you've got a priest or anything along those lines with Soothe, or a rogue with Shroud and such to help, amazing. I did manage to recover this pull. I could see that this pack, patrol is coming a bit close. I wasn't sure if we would just naturally pull that, so I wanted to pull them as far away from that patrol as possible. So that's why I'm standing in this really awkward place here. It's not a very nice pack, this one, which is why I wouldn't recommend pulling it. But as you can see, it works out for us, and we managed to get the pack down. Now, if I hadn't have pulled this one, if we hadn't have accidentally pulled this one, what I would have done is we would have skipped by hugging this wall here. There are two Peacekeepers here, which we pulled just then, and then there is this pack here. Now, normally what I would do is I would pull these two and I'd pull them into this pack over here, or I'd pull this pack up here and tank everything around here. There is a hidden ad just to the right down there, Skulker I believe it's called, which can be quite a pain to deal with, but that is usually the pull I would go with, not that middle pack. But because we body pulls, I just carried on because I knew that we were going to be fine on percentage still anyway. It then comes into the marketplace, and because we committed Lust to the second boss, I wanted to come straight here because ideally we would probably want Lust for the male boss if we were going to use it anywhere. If Lust was available now, I would probably go to male boss first. Just something to bear in mind then here is I would always, as a tank, recommend that you be the one that picks up the item that it drops, because when you pick it up, the mobs spawn and they can fixate, and if they fixate onto a DPS or a healer, chances are they are going to go down. This part of the dungeon is a lot easier than before. When you pick up the item, you will get a mark on your minimap. You can see it here, and a giant beam to help you help you see where you need to go easier. You need the Overseer, so I picked up the item, I waited until the mob spawned, and then I also tagged in this Overseer as well, because you need this for percentage. So the strong arms then, they are immune to CC. They fixate whoever has the trade goods. So, like I said, if you're not the tank and you pick this up, use some ability to get away from them. And Static Mace will do some damage on there. The lackeys, they have a stacking buff called Gang Up that obviously helps them do more damage with the more lackeys that are in the pack. And the Overseers are immune to CC. They do an ability called Energized Slam, which you'll see come out, which does damage to 3 players, so you need to make sure that they are spread out loosely. And Pierce is a tank ability, which you might need to use a defensive for, dependent on the stacks and such. You can see them here on my screen. Once this one is down, then you will then be given the password for the club, the Oasis club. If you've got big wigs or anything like that, when you see the password come up in the left-hand corner of your screen and you click the guy, it will automatically choose the password for you, and then you can move on to the Oasis boss fight. Now, you want to pick up a weapon each. As a tank, I always go for the one just here in front of the microphone. I find it is the easiest one. Everybody else needs to pick up theirs. And then what you are looking out for are the little icons on the floor, so you'll see them appear in just a moment. The 3 little music notes. It's a triangle for me. You go and stand in it and you press your action button and you will start to gain a buff. This does stack and you can refresh this throughout the fight. Once you have done that a few times, you will then start to get ads spawning. This can be quite tricky as a tank to pick up aggro straight away. They do separate. You can see I lose it here. It is a bit of a pain, but you need to make sure that you are interrupting that ability there, Menacing Shout. If that goes off, damage will be going out. The patrons also teleport away and then will do their cast. So that is a pain. You need to make sure that you're getting across to them as quickly as possible. Once they are down, you will then go back to the middle and you will have an opportunity to gain the buff again. So you will just do the same process. Now, after the nerfs, they changed it so that the boss will now spawn. They've removed one of the waves. This boss can be potentially quite difficult unless everybody knows what they are doing. The boss will engage. You can taunt and grab aggro straight away, so the boss runs to you immediately. Solly Monk, that is me. He's taking Security Slam. So that there is a tank ability. You just need to make sure that you are healthy, and if you feel like you need any mitigation, that is up. Suppression here is a suck in again, which will do damage. So you need to run away from it. But what you can see here is when this is being cast, this suppression spark, what you can see is you can see my notes appear. If you look carefully underneath the boss, you will see that the 3 notes appear. So I go in, I use my action button, and I gain my, I refresh the haste buff. Final warning then is a cast. You need to cast this. If you don't cast this, it will just keep on doing repetitive damage. However, the boss has got a shield which you need to break before you can kick the boss. You can see here we get it through. We get through that shield quite nicely and kick it. We are going to lose the healer in a moment. You'll be able to see the healer go down, and here is our CR, and we don't have any of those jumper cables, so we have to finish this fight with no healer. It isn't a particularly healing intensive fight, this one, so as long as you play the mechanics and you do everything correctly, you don't actually take too much damage unless you do not get through this and kick this as quickly as possible. Other than that, it's fairly straightforward. Menacing Shout, you need to kick and you need to make your way through this shield as quickly as possible. We just get to it. Dodge, crowd control, the frontal. Again, pretty poor telegraph considering all of the other work that they've been doing. And this is the kick that you need to make that Menacing Shout. After you've done this then, you are going to go back out and you are going to run to the male boss area. Now, there's a couple of ways that you can do this. You can either A, do this entire room in one go. So you can pick up all of the mobs that are around the room in one go. And either way, what you want to be doing is where I'm pinging here on the screen, you want to get back out here as quickly as possible. Now, because we've got Lust up, I decide that I'm going to leave the pack that's on the other side of the room and I'm going to do them with boss. So you can see me run in. I go across here, I pick up these two. The one thing to bear in mind is these packs are not joined they're not joined. So if you come in and you tag this first mob, you actually don't necessarily pull all of these as well, which is why I go around and I'm tagging as many of them as possible. I also spot on the way out, this sorter here is doing open cage. Now this is an ability that you absolutely want to stop. So you can see as I run past, I do tiger leg sweep and get that out. And because I then come out here and line of sight them, they don't cast that ability. So just bear that in mind. I then get everything grouped up and we make sure that we are making as many kicks as possible. We are utilising group CC here just to get these ads down as quickly as possible. I am then also going to turn around and I am going to tag this Peacekeeper and I am going to bring this into the pull as well to save some time later on. Once this entire pack is down and the Peacekeeper is down, then you are going to go into the boss room and you are going to pull the boss. Pulling the left-hand pack, because we've got Lust, I felt like we could do it. It is fairly simple and straightforward. I can see that he's going for the sorter again, so I run out and sweep him and get him brought in. And because we've got Lust in, these ads just get cleaved down alongside the boss. So, first ability then with the boss to be aware of is this soak mechanic here. So you can see that hazardous liquids is now being used and purple circles will spawn all around the room. And what you want to be doing is making sure that you keep as much of it clear as possible, ideally the middle of the room. You want to keep as much of the middle of the room clear as possible. You will then get a dot applied to you if you soaked one, and if you soaked more than one circle, you will get 2 stacks, and so on and so forth. Fan Mail is an AoE wide ability that will do damage, and the closer you are to the boss, obviously the damage that you're going to take, and the more stacks you have got of that dot, the more damage you will take, so just be mindful of that. After the AoE ability then, you will get the Group Soak, where one player is targeted by a golden swirl. Everybody needs to get in that, bring it next to the boss, and make sure that you are inside it. Finally, the last ability then is the mail sorting ability. Briefcases will spawn on the ground, and what you need to look for is the chute that has all of the mail flying upwards. You need to pick them up, you need to run across, and you need to use your extraction button and throw them into the chute. As tank, you can do this if you want to. It's not a necessity. If the group is good and they know what they're doing. But that is essentially the fight, and you just rinse and repeat. Once this boss is down, then you can go outside and you can do the last mob, which is this one here, Zofar, which is right at the end. Now, I do this rather than skips or anything along those lines, just keep it simple. However, this is a particularly nasty mob. So, first off, he is immune to CC, so that is just something to bear in mind. And he will spawn the shock mines along the floor, which if you stand in them, you will take damage and be stunned. You can clear these with immunities after a few casts to make yourself to give you some space. He will also cast Power Kick on the tank, which is where he will target you and then he will do a knockback on you. So that is why I have got my back close to this wall, so I'm not going flying and pulling any other adds or anything along those lines. I am safe in this corner. And then the last one is this ability here, Lethal Force, which is where two players are tethered together. So you need to keep some space in between you and the other player, because if you do take that damage, it will, if you touch each other, it will do significant damage. Once you've done that, then you click on the console and you make your way up to the boss. Now, you'll notice we did have a full wipe on this boss pretty early on, so I've just cut that part and I'll explain why we wiped. But essentially, you pull the boss, just keep him in the middle of the room, and wait for the mechanics to start to play out. So first things first, you'll notice these teleporters, and they will have a shape above each one. What you are looking for when Shuri is cast, so that is this ability, you will see a circle start to appear. Now, you want to be looking out for where that circle is spawning and what teleporter is next to it. So I could see here that the triangle is where the Shuri is spawning. So I know that I want to be taking the triangle teleporter to be safe. So you wait for the circle to cover and go past the triangle teleport. You then go into the other one and you will be safe. So here, circle I know is going to be safe. However, I can't get there. But I also know that triangle is going to be safe. We're right by triangle, so we wait. And as soon as it goes past that teleporter, we then make our way through. You then will get divide, which is where the room will be split in two to make it a little bit more difficult. And the boss is now casting something called double technique. This happens when the boss reaches 100 energy and the boss will teleport away and begin to cast, which will apply a lethal dot to everybody in the party if that cast goes off. You need to interrupt this ability twice. So you watch where the boss has spawned. You then make sure that you are picking the correct teleporter. So if I go back to where it is, so the boss reaches 100 energy. He then jumps away. So you can see he's on 100% energy. Divide is being cast. He's then casting double technique. And I can see, right, he's right next to square, casting the ability. So for some reason, I'm really struggling to find square. Okay, it's this one. Go through and kick it. Now, what you want to do is you want to leave the cast to be kicked as late as possible. It just helps you out throughout the fight, but as long as somebody kicks it twice, you will be fine. That essentially is the crux of the fight. You will get another divide, so the room will be split into quarters to make it even more difficult. But as long as you're keeping an eye on where that Shuri is starting from, what is the nearest shape, and then quickly finding where the entrance to that shape is, you will be fine. Other than that, the boss does occasionally use something called Phase Slash, so you can see that coming up now, which hits 3 players, and it does apply a bleed to them. So that could be a spot where healers need cooldowns and such. But as long as you just take your time, you can see that double technique is being cast again. Yeah. As long as you take your time and you just take a moment to see which of the teleporters would be best to use. Sometimes, especially when the room is in quarters, you need to take 2 teleporters. So let's say we were in this one, for instance, and we needed to get over here. We would need to go into square and then immediately into circle to get in there. So just have a think before you just rush off into the nearest teleporter. That is the key in itself. As you can see, we are perfectly to percentage, and we have done it with 3 minutes spare. We did have over a minute of deaths in total. So again, 4 minutes, and with doing the run correctly, it could have been a little bit quicker as well. So I wanted to leave the mistakes in so you can see that yes, it is still quite achievable and such. We didn't necessarily have like mega blasters in the group either. So as long as you just take it steady and you just know what the abilities do, you should be fine. Thank you very much for watching, and yeah, see you in the next one.